All right, guys, we're going to jump into our next interview. Those of you who are music fans are really going to love this one because he is the creator, one of the creators of Fun Fests, right? Anyone go? Yeah, fans? Yeah? Okay, Graham, a local celebrity, very cool. Also runs a very successful agency here locally called Transmission Agency. So we're going to get the full story. Please help me in welcoming to the stage Graham Williams. Graham got a lot of fans here. Ugh.
Juice Land, represent.
Juice Land. Smart marketer, Matt. Okay, so fun. What came first, the agency or the festival?
The festival, technically. I worked for a club called Emos for about a decade.
Okay.
I booked and managed it. And I started the festival, oddly enough, with Tim League, the owner of the Alamo Drafthouse.
Uh-huh.
We did it for 1 year together. I was still at Emos. He was still doing Alamo.
What year was that?
2006, I think.
Okay.
Long story short, we started the festival together. It was a kind of a small little mini festival. I was at the club, and at that point, Alamo Drafthouse had started to really take off. As you know, they're all over the country now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hugely successful chain. And they had started a festival called Fantastic Fest, which was sort of their version of Fun for film.
And so that first year, I mean, people see the success now. They don't appreciate probably all the work you put in early on. So that first year, how many total tickets sold for the festival, and what did it cost you to produce?
I don't know the exact cost, probably $100,000 or so, small compared to what it costs now. The festival probably did about 3,000 people.
Okay.
It was 1 day. And yeah, I mean, it actually made a teeny tiny profit even.
That feels good, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
something to smile about.
But we, at that point, shortly after, the Tim League started working on Fantastic Fest, which became a big sci-fi and horror film festival. As that happened, I left Emos and started Transmission Events with a few partners, which was a booking and promotions company in Austin, which has expanded all over Texas, doing shows year-round.
So in that first year, you got 3,000 people. Walk us through what you did marketing-wise. I mean, how did you get 3,000 people to come to an event that was just launching?
It was a lot of street team kind of promo. We had a few ads in the paper, very little radio. Social media was very new. We had my MySpace page.
Mm-hmm.
This is,
you had a MySpace page?
This is just post-Friendster.
Okay.
So this is how long ago it was.
If you're in the crowd right now and you've used MySpace or Friendster, don't raise your hand.
Before Facebook, Twitter, you name it.
And that all those marketing.
It was a lot of flyering in front of clubs.
And all that marketing, the flyers, the ads, all that was included in the $100,000 cost?
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Okay, so that was 2006.
Something like that.
In 2015, how many total attendees?
Around 20,000 or so.
Wow.
And it's 3 days. It used to be one. That first year it was 1 day. Now it's 3 days.
20,000, you said?
Yeah. So I guess 60 over the weekend.
And so the budget must have
3.
increased. $100,000 first.
Yeah.
What's it cost you to produce now?
I don't even know off the top of my head. It's
More-
4 or 5 million.
4 or 5
like
million.
that. Yeah.
And is most of that talent or marketing?
The bulk of it is talent.
Okay.
I would say the next line would be production.
Okay.
Which is usually about half as much as talent, but still a shitload. I mean, you're talking
2
everything.
million.
Yeah, something like, and then the marketing is still a good chunk, but actually not quite as much of it because we do market our festival still for a fairly niche audience. So it is a lot of social media. It is a lot of non-traditional marketing, which isn't quite as expensive as the full page ads in the daily paper and things like that kind of push you over the top.
So I'm a numbers guy, so I always stick on numbers, but there's
Sure.
something to be said here from a creative perspective. I mean, there's very few events, maybe Burning Man and very few others reach 20,000 attendees over 3 days. What has kind of driven the growth of the company or the festival?
I think the uniqueness of the festival, I mean, we're still boutique compared to the big dogs. I mean, Coachellas of the world are 80,000 people, and some of those are 2 weekends. We're talking 150, 160,000 over 2 weekends. But when it comes to the other 1,000 festivals out there, yeah, we're definitely on the top scale of those. Us, Pitchfork, some of the festivals in that range. I think those kind of festivals tend to find their audience and respect that audience by booking, promoting, marketing the way they want to be booked and promoted and marketed to. It's the artist they want to see. It's having a voice they understand.
Who headlined last year?
Ours is sort of genre-based, so every stage is kind of broken into genres. So the more dance and hip-hop stage, you had Wu-Tang, you had Grimes, you had acts like that. The more indie-centric stage, you had Jane's Addiction, Churches, Lauryn Hill replaced D'Angelo, who canceled last minute. We have a stage that's a little bit heavier. It's kind of heavier music, and there were more punk and metal bands on that stage.
So now with 20,000 people kind of over, you said 3 days, about $4 to $5 million to produce. How are you making money from the event besides ticket sales?
It's essentially one big pot that it all goes into, but ticket sales are the bulk of it, obviously. Okay. Then I would say sponsorship and bar.
Okay.
Because if you're self-producing, if you know what you're doing it in the right location, you are selling the alcohol as well, so you're handling the vendor and beverage sales. Then beyond that, it's pretty small. It drops down a lot. Merch, vendors who rent out space, and sell products. But for the most part, ticket sales, sponsorship, and bar sales.
And so what did a ticket cost last year?
It's about $200 for a weekend pass, or $80 or $90 for a single day.
Okay, so is it fair to say with 20,000 people each paying somewhere around full price of $200, you're cranking somewhere near 40 or 400? What was the total revenue just from the ticket prices?
I'm sorry, what was
total revenue just from ticket prices?
Oh, right. Tickets
ticket
alone are probably about half of what we pull in. So it's not in front of me. It's hard to say. I want to say there's like $1 to $2 million in ticket sales. But yeah, if you times 15 to 20,000 people.
Is the math that simple though? The 20,000 attendees, are they all paying somewhere near full price, or do you do bulk deals with sponsors?
It average out to about that based solely on ticket sales. So like a ticket's $200 for a weekend pass, but then you also have single day buyers who don't even go for the whole weekend.
I see.
So there might be more on Saturday because it's a good day to go to a festival where people have to work on Friday. Then you have VIP tickets who are a much smaller number but a much higher price. They end up averaging out to about the same as a weekend pass in number of people when you break it down. If you roll food and bev in and alcohol sales, that's a little more complicated, but it's $10 a head or something that you drink at a festival per day. And then sponsorship, I don't really know how that breaks down exactly, but if you have a good brand and a strong name and something people want to be involved with, you can do pretty well. I think there is definitely a new mindset in the sponsorship world that isn't so focused on what's the biggest thing we can be a part of, but more what's the coolest thing we can be a part of, or how do we market our brand uniquely and actually connect with fans and buyers on a more personal level than just having a billboard. So festivals like this that are a bit more boutique compared to a Super Bowl ad are now becoming kind of a viable option.
You can charge more per 1,000 people at the event because it's curated.
Yeah, you can charge more, but more importantly, the pool's bigger. Like back in the day, I feel like barely anyone who does this kind of stuff could really get sponsors. It was really hard to convince someone to write you a check because they're like, what is this?
Yep.
But at some point,
what is the average sponsor check? I mean, they're writing you. I mean, are we talking like $20,000, $50,000, $100,000?
I don't actually handle that stuff, so I'm not 100% sure. I do know it's broken on levels, though. There's like presenting sponsors who have a logo and everything, who are a big part of the activations on site. Then there are smaller level things who don't have any logo placement, but do get some space on site to promote their product. So I do know the prices vary pretty drastically based on the few big names we have and then a whole lot of small baby ones.
So if you roll all this up, again, total expenses, you're looking at $5 million for a Fun Fest. And last year, total revenue, are we saying somewhere near 7-ish? I mean, did you guys make money on the event or no?
We usually do pretty good. Last year we did okay. It was actually an off year because we had this crazy hurricane, which is the scare for all festivals is bad weather. Luckily, it stopped raining like right when doors opened. But for a lot of the people who were planning on coming, who were like, "Oh, I'm not coming," it definitely our walk-up was lower than last year, but it was still a good festival.
So, I mean, what does doing okay mean? Is it a profit of $1 million on the show?
I mean, we're smaller, so we're not like a big profit kind of festival. I mean, we make money, but I wouldn't say compared to some of the big festivals that make $10 million, those are festivals with 100,000 people. So we're a lot smaller.
Okay.
I don't know. I want to talk about how much every year makes since I have partners, but overall we do fairly well.
Okay.
I mean, it is a labor of love, though. If you were most business people, I think would look at live music in general, festivals included, and say, God, for the amount you invest, you don't make as much as you would make if you
invested elsewhere.
Sold widgets. Yeah.
Sure.
So, but if you're doing something you love and it drives your year-round business, and you do shows year-round, or like Pitchfork, I mentioned, is a year-round marketing company or a website that markets music. So for them, doing a festival also builds their brand. If it's profitable and it ties into your year-round business, it's actually...
So this is really icing on the top in terms of it helps also drive your agency revenues.
Yeah, I think, I look at it like it's one of a couple of festivals we do, actually, and We book shows for 50 people sometimes in a room this big occasionally.
Yep.
We book shows for 20,000 people sometimes, and this is one of those shows.
Very cool. Well, Graham, before we get into my favorite part of the show, if people want to follow you personally, the agency, and the festival online, where can they do that?
Our website for Transmission is just transmissionevents.com, and the festival's funfunfunfest.com, and all the social media handles are the same.
Awesome. Well, Graham, you've got to get this next question right.
All right, we'll see.
Do you know what time it is? Come on. It's time for the famous five. Graham, number one, what's your favorite business book?
I've never read a business book.
Okay, what's your favorite book?
Oh, I don't. 1984
Do you not read?
Maybe from high school.
Okay, 1984. Number two, is there a CEO that you're following or studying right now?
No.
No CEO. Okay. Number three, is there a favorite online tool you have, like maybe Evernote?
Gmail.
Gmail. Come on. How do you run your? This is like
email.
That's another 30 grand Gmail for sponsoring this event. I mean, running your agency. Other people run agencies. Is there a specific tool you use to help keep your agency on track? Anything like that?
Not me. I mean, I guarantee someone at my agency does that.
Got
but there's 25 employees, and I can send email.
Got it. All right. Number four, yes or no, as you're building the agency, building the festival, are you getting 8 hours of sleep every night?
No, but I get more than I used to, oddly. Like the first half of it was really tough. I have a kid now, so I fall asleep earlier because we have to get up earlier. I don't know, I get 6 or so. That's not horrible.
So So tell us real quick situation. Married, single, how many kids do you have?
Married, 1 child.
1 kid. Okay, and how old are you now?
I'm 38.
Okay, so take us back 18 years. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
Oh, wow. I kind of wish I had started planning.
I really want you to say, like, smoke more weed or something just crazy.
I didn't smoke weed. 20-year-old me, I think I've made the right decisions for the most part. I mean, I do what I want. I have a job that's awesome. Everyone who works for me is really cool, and we get to book bands and watch music and get paid to do it. But I would say I wish I had started some of that a little earlier. I worked at Emo's, this one club, for about a decade before I started Transmission. I probably should have started that company 5 years before that, same with the festival. But I probably stayed in a comfortable zone that I knew well and didn't take as many risks as I should have. Probably I should have done that in my mid-20s instead of waited till a little longer. So I would suggest if you're young and you're thinking about doing something, learn all you can, whether it's school, although I didn't go to college, so maybe not. But whether it's school, whether it's learning from your job market, whether you're working with people, do what you can. Sure, get as much experience as you can. But at some point, if you think you're ready to pull off that Band-Aid and go for it, just go for it. Like, what's the worst that can happen?
I love it. Top Tribe, there you have it. Start earlier, get going from 3,000 followers up to 20,000 attending Fun Fest, a super successful agency. Graham, thank you for taking us to the top.
All right, thanks for having me.
All right, guys, we're actually just going to go in about 5 minutes, bring up our last guest. Hey, Graham, thank you so much. Last guy we've got coming up is an interesting story if you're looking to raise capital. So he actually just closed a $1.5 million round of capital. We'll get into if that was a seed round or an equity round and how much equity, etc. Also won TechCrunch Disrupt. So we'll get into kind of the tech world with the next guest coming up.